Hi, I'm Valerie. You're watching Videowave. Today we're talking to Joe Franklin in his Times Square office. Joe, you started out in radio. Can you tell me about how you got into daytime TV?
I gotta tell you, I started out today at the dentist, so I'm a little bit numb. You know, they say be true to your teeth or they'll be false to you, so I had to be true to my teeth, and I went to my dentist today. So if I'm a little bit, I'm not going to say incoherent. I'm always lucid, but if I'm a little bit not my precise Joe Franklin diction, to take it out of my salary, okay?
Okay.
I got into radio when I was about 17 years old, Valerie, or maybe 15. I went to see somebody at a radio station here at WNEW. In fact, I was going to take the receptionist out to lunch. She was an old friend of mine. And who comes walking down the aisle? A man named Martin Block. He had a program called the Maple Leaf Ballroom, famous radio show. And he asked me if I would like a job picking his records. His record picker had just quit or got drafted or something. And I became, overnight, I became the record picker for the #1 radio show in the world called the Maple Leaf Ballroom. And Martin Block took a liking to me, got me my own radio show. I went from the record librarian to the disc jockey, and that was about 41 years ago. I just never stopped. And then when daytime TV began, there was no such thing as daytime TV. I was just doing the radio, and they asked me if I would like to occupy an hour a day in TV. So I said, I'll try it. They said, well, Joe, if we give you an hour a day, what kind of a show will you do? I said, how about if I do a show, because rock and roll is getting big then. I said, how about if I do a show of kids dancing to phonograph records? They said, Joe, that would never go. Who came along? Dick Clark becomes a billionaire. I said, well, how about then if I don't have kids dancing to records, if I do a show of people just talking, like we're talking, nose to nose, eyeball to eyeball, toe to toe, face to face? They said, now we know you're crazy. You can't talk, the word is television, you got to give them vision, you got to give them salsa bottles, pratfalls, baggy pants, you got to give them comedy skits. But I defied them. I think I did what was the first talk show. That was many years ago.
Joe Franklin.
1951. 1951.
So you're the only talk show host who chooses his own guests.
Well,
What makes a good guest?
I think so. Hang it up, hang it up.
What's the combination?
I think that by being my own talent booker, that's a good point you made, Valerie. I think that by being my own talent booker, I mean, I know people, they tell me every night to about 12 million people. I know people that have a talk show where they talk to 12 people. And they got talent coordinators and buffers and producers and coordinators and I don't know, who was it? I always ask. But I think that by me being my own talent coordinator, I can feel in my mind the chemistry. I can feel I become kind of the master catalyst. I can feel in my mind who goes well together. So I think that I've got that knack of knowing how to intermingle. Amigo, shut up. So I think that by knowing in my mind who goes well after all these years, I got the experience. I've got the knack of knowing how to balance a show.
Okay, we're going to take a break now, and we'll be back with Joe Franklin. Hi, we're back with the man who created the talk show format, Joe Franklin. We're here in his Times Square office. Joe, John Lennon was on the show many times. Can you tell me how many times and your special arrangement with him?
Well, that's the right term. It was a special arrangement. He wanted to show that Yoko Ono could be interviewed without his shoulder to lean on. She could manipulate and talk without him. So every time that I had John Lennon on, my arrangement was that I would have Yoko Ono on 3 times. So I had him 3 times and Yoko 9 times, and it worked out fine. And I wish I saved those videos. I just never thought ahead. But I got videos with Charlie Chaplin, Cary Grant. Never had Greta Garbo. That's the one I really wanted. But I got videos with James Cagney, with John F. Kennedy, with Richard Nixon.
What about Woody Allen?
Woody Allen was my anchorman maybe 20 times in the 1960s.
Now, you're in a lot of the Woody Allen movies, either appearing live or in some way. Can you tell me about that?
Well, he's sort of an admirer of mine. He watches me every night and calls me here once or twice a week and comments on the show. And as you point out, if I'm not in the picture myself, usually he's making his movies on days when I'm taping or not available. So if I'm not there, he'll show a book that I wrote, like a little Hitchcockian such, a little cameo sequence of me on my TV show, It's just like a little good luck token. That's about all it is. But he's a marvelous man.
Can you tell me about some of the books you've written? I know you had a comic book.
Well, my current book is in its 4th printing because the first 3 printings were blurred. I'm only kidding. No, I've written about 26 books. I wrote my famous one is called Classics of the Silent Screen, about old-time movies. And I wrote the Encyclopedia of Comedy. I wrote my autobiography called A Gift for People, which sold quite well. And I've got a new one coming out now called The Lost Art of Conversation, or So You Want to Be a Talk Show Host. And I think that'll be a big one.
Mr. Rodman.
How do you feel now that CDs have replaced albums?
Right now.
Well, I think it's just say that I'm taping 60 minutes and I'll call him back in a half hour.
He said he's taping 60 minutes. He called you.
And Miss Sawyer, let me just think that.
Okay.
I think, what was the last question?
How do you feel about albums, CDs replacing
Well,
albums?
I think that
Been
the quality of the CDs is miraculous. They take these old 78s and sort of refurbish them. I personally miss the old time scratch. I like them with the hiss, with the surface noise. I think it's much more authentic when it's less medicated. I'm saying, hold on, this lady invited me to make a speech. I'll be there, Grandma. Yeah. I'll be there. You know, I'm taping 60 Minutes right now. I'm gonna give you a big plug on 60 Minutes. Listen, Mike, I'm talking to Mike Wallace. Mike, this is Grandma Rosie, a great entertainer. So thank you, Mike. Okay, I'll be on time. And
Joe,
yes.
You always refer to Eddie Cantor and Rudy Valley often.
Eddie was kind of my inspiration. I don't know if young people your age even know the name of Eddie Cantor, but he was a superstar before that word was invented or abused or overused. He was #1 in radio, #1 in TV when TV was young, on a program called the Colgate Comedy Hour. He was #1 in vaudeville. He holds the old-time attendance record at the Palace Theater on Broadway, and his records, the phonograph records were gigantic sellers. And I think it's kind of sad that fame is so fleeting. There's a man should be more recognized today, but that's what happens. The public is fickle. But he was my inspiration. He was lively and vital and animated, and he sort of motivated me to want to be in this business.
Okay, we're going to take a look at something new and different now, and we'll be back with Joe Franklin.
Promise?
Promise. Hi, we're back with Joe Franklin. Joe, I've often seen Bill Cosby on the show and several other people that they started out on your show and they come back. Who comes back and who doesn't?
Well, that's also a good point, sometimes a sore point. I gave the first exposure ever. Nobody discovers anybody, but I gave the first exposure ever on TV to people such as Bill Cosby, Barbra Streisand, Bette Midler, Bruce Springsteen, Michael Jackson when he was with the Jackson 5, Liza Minnelli, Joan Rivers, Eddie Murphy several times when he was brand new. And I would say that most of them don't come back because I symbolize to them times when they were broke. Many of them don't want to be reminded. I guess it's human nature. It's shallow, but it is human nature. I guess I can understand it. But some come back. Bill Cosby came back. Flip Wilson came back. There's about 3 or 4 who come back. Most don't. But at least I've got the pleasure of having had them when they were young. And Woody Allen, he came back once or twice. He doesn't make any appearances anywhere. And Billy Crystal, I had him on when he was just a kid running around town looking for a job. I had the New Kids on the Block on 4 years ago. I had to give them coffee. I had to come to my studio. Remember that? They were brand new.
Right. You had James Dean and
Dean.
Elvis Presley.
James Dean, not on the show. James Dean, believe it or not, answered my phones for a while when he was on the way to California.
Wow.
And one day he left a note on my door that he was going to an audition. That was the last time I saw him.
Guess he passed.
I think he made it, yeah. And Julia Roberts answered my phone for a while.
Elvis?
Elvis was on my show.
Did he perform?
No, he sat there on the same panel one day, Valerie, with Ann Margaret Olson, who later on dropped the Olson, just became Ann Margaret, and with the telephone. No, with
Joe Frank was
with Jimmy Rogers had a hit record then called Honeycomb.
Who?
And it was...
He-
Who was that was?
Yeah, Phil St. James.
Yeah, tell him that I'm talking, I'm taping 60 minutes.
He's taping 60
But
minutes.
I'll be here for at least another hour.
He'll be here for another hour.
And it's very important.
He's taping.
Tell him it's crucial, it's critical.
It's crucial. Call him in an hour.
Tell him it's urgent.
Okay.
Yeah, and what I want to say, it's just a question that, what was the question?
We were talking about Elvis.
Oh, well, he was very polite. He was Mr. He told everybody sir. And what happened from his appearance on my show, there was a program on Channel 5 that was the summertime replacement for Jackie Gleason program. Remember that one, Charles? It was called The Cavalcade of Stars
Right,
with Jack Carter. Remember that?
right, yeah, yeah.
And Jack Carter was the summertime replacement for Sid Caesar and for all those things. And they caught Elvis Presley on my show, and they put him on the Cavalcade of Stars on Dumont. And Ed Sullivan was watching that show that night. And that's when Ed Sullivan signed up to Elvis Presley for the Ed Sullivan show. But it was from my show. It was a chain reaction. My show, Cavalcade of Stars, Ed Sullivan, then Elvis Presley became
He's taping right
Who is it?
now.
Who is it?
Jackie?
the sensation of the nation.
Well, he's-
So is there anyone new discoveries that we should look for?
Well, I had a kid out about three years ago named Garth Brooks, and I also gave him coffee to come in my studio. Look at him today. He makes over $100 a night. They told me, right? No, he's gigantic.
Okay. Joe, I want to thank you for coming on Videowave. We're continuing your tradition of discovering what's new and different, and want to thank you.
Valerie, I've been a fan of yours for many, many years, and please invite me back.
Thank you.
And come on my show when you're ready, okay?
Okay.
Good luck.
We'd like to thank you for joining us here at Videowave this week. We'd like to think of our music as music for the educated mind, but we'd like to know what you think.